Today we are going to be talking about the OS module. First got to import the module. So import OS. So a handy little command to get what is in a module, you can go print and you can dir for directory of the module. In this case it's OS. Okay, so I'm going to run that quickly. And it will show you all the functions and things you can use that are actually in this module. So if you ever want to see what is in a particular module that you are working with, you can just do dir and the module name. Okay, now in path you can see there's extra functions and methods that you can call from path. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that handy way of finding out what is in a particular module. Okay, so we're going to use some of the OS commands. Right, so this one says get CWD, which is get working directory. Okay, so it should return the working directory that you are currently in. It should then tell you this is the path that you're in, and you can see that's the path I'm in. It actually displays it right there in my editor. There are functions that actually do work. Okay, so I mean this is quite self-explanatory as to what it will be doing. It's going to change the directory. So I'm going to run that. It's changed the directory, but there's no output. So I'm going to now display what my current working directory is. So let's do that. And first it's OS module, and then it gets changed, and it's now in the data directory. Okay, you can also list the directory. Okay, so that will list whatever is in the directory. And if you go to my data directory which I've got here, I've just got another directory and some files. Okay, you can see it returns a list of everything that is in that current working directory above. Okay, so now we're back in the root directory for this project. Okay, so what you can also do, instead of changing to the directory first, you can actually just list what is in a given path. So I can just call the list dir and provide a path, and then it will return what is in that path. Now to make a directory, okay, I'll run that and you should see a test folder appear. And if I wanted to make a couple of directories deep, okay, so I've got to use make dirs because this will fail. So if I run that, it now would have made a folder inside a folder. So there you get another test and test file. So if you want to make a whole string of directories, then you'd have to use make dirs and not mkdir, because that only makes one directory at a time and only one directory deep. Okay, so now we're going to move on to removing files and removing directories. Right, so if I run that, okay, right, you can see there's the file under test. Let's close that folder there. So there's test. Okay, if I run this, it's gone. Okay. Okay, so let's remove a directory now. There is test files. Okay, I'm going to run this remove dir and it'll now be gone. rm dir removes a directory and remove removes a file. Okay, so let's rename a file. Okay, so I don't have a file at the moment to move, so I'm just going to create this test a dummy file. Okay, so there's my test. I'll call it test files. Let's make sure it's a test files. Okay, and then we're going to rename it. This is just to give you understanding that you can actually just change the file name by maybe putting on tagging on a date timestamp or however you want to do that. So let's run that and you should see it would now appear in, so it's going to go from here to here and then change the name. Let's run that and you can see it's now moved out of here and it's now in another test folder and it's changed the name as well. So now I want to talk about a real handy feature in the path.join. It's called path.join. Okay, so yeah, I've got a very basic path. The path doesn't have to exist. All it's doing is it's taking these two paths, it's joining them, and you'll notice that it fills in the slash for you. Okay, so another one is the path.split. So if you have a path, okay, so that's the first piece of code where it actually joins it. This actually splits it up. So it'll take that path and it'll split it up into the directory in the first item and the file name in the second item. Okay, so now you also might find it useful to run system commands instead of using the Python equivalent. For that, you can use the os.system. Okay, so as you can see, that is the Windows directory equivalent to listdir example, and it gives it to you in the format that you would expect to see it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the os.walk. So you supply a path. Okay, so there os.walk and the path, and then it should display us. Okay, so it's displaying that it's a generator. That's what it's actually printing out. So if we actually want to see something, we can actually use the list method to say, okay, convert this into a list, and then it will display what's actually in that generator. Okay, now you can see it starts at my path, my root path. Right, there it is, and it'll give you all the files and folders that's in that root path. Then it'll go into each individual. There's the files. Okay, so this is the directories that is in that path. So it gives back the root path, then it gives you a list of all the directories that's in that root path, and then it gives you a list of all the files. Then it will go into each individual directory and it will give you if there's any other further directories, and it then will start breaking it down and actually walking through all the directories and subdirectories from this root path. Okay, so this list can get pretty long. As you can see, it gets pretty massive. So let's give it something smaller to start with. So let's go from data rather. Okay, so that's a little bit of a smaller and easier to see. So from data, you can see there's the root path. Then it finds one directory and it's got some files. Then it goes into that directory and it looks in there and it sees, okay, so in some dir it's got another file. It's got no directory, so that then list is empty, and it shows what file is in there. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. Right, and if you want to work with it, you normally work with it with a list, with a for list. Okay, so you'd unpack this. So you go for into variables. I've chose R, D, and F for root, directory, and files. And you also supply a path. I'm just going to stick with this path. Okay, so now it's taking this and it unpacks it into these variables, and then I can access these values. As you can see here, that's the first, that's the root, and that's the files. That's F. So that's R there, and that's F. Then it goes into the next folder, and that's the root directory where it's in now, and that's the file that it's found there. Okay, so that's the way to put it on a line. You can also put the D in here if you wanted to. If you wanted to see that for some reason. Okay, so I'll show it like that. So there's again the root folder, the directories, and the files. Okay, there you can see that is now empty because there's no further directories in some dir. Okay, so that's just a way to unpack walk and how to use the information. So let's say, for example, I was searching for a file. Okay, so I was searching for this file. It'll then go through each file in its directory that it's in at that point in time, and then it'll check, and then it will compare it to each file it finds. And if it finds a match, then it will print the path using the join, and you can see it puts the path, it finds it in data. Okay, so now we're going to do an example using all that we've learned so far. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how to move files around. Now I'm going to call this, and it's going to move them. Okay, now you'll see they're gone here. They're no longer here. They're now here. Okay, guys, that's it for the tutorial today. Hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe to the channel. Have a great day. Cheers.